Previously on Flowers for Zoe, Stories for Dennis.
I feel like I wasted years of my life, and I don't want to waste any more. Every step in my life that I'm taking right now is one step closer to everything that I want.
And now, coming up on the show, did we almost kill you by giving you fentanyl like that?
To finally come out in the open, you're not expecting for somebody to just understand, or some would call enable the addict by saying, okay, let's go get this and you can use.
On today's podcast, we discuss the controversial topic of harm reduction. If you find anything from today's show activating, please reach out and talk to somebody. If you like what you hear, please share the link with others. Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Hello.
Welcome to podcast number 14. Today we're talking about harm reduction. I find the word a little bit confusing myself until Laura explained it to me. So why don't you kind of explain it, Laura? What exactly is harm reduction?
Harm reduction is a set of practical strategies. These principles are meant to reduce the negative consequences associated with substance using. We did a episode on stigma where we talked a lot about, the stigma attached to substance use. The principles of harm reduction are really foundational to trying to reduce stigma, increase awareness, help people understand practical strategies around how to use safer. For some people, it's abstinence. For some people, it's safe supply. Harm reduction is really about meeting people where they're at. It kind of approaches things with that attitude that, for better, for worse, whether it's licit or illicit, drugs are part of our world. And it really is about, supporting people within this complex, multifaceted phenomena. It really is about supporting people.
I remember when Zoe first told me that she was an active user of fentanyl, and now I have that information. Okay, Zoe's an active user and she has to use right now. And then what do I do with that information? And the first thing I think of is call Laura. And if I put myself back in those shoes, I remember sitting there wondering to myself, how am I going to tell Laura that Zoe is going to use? Laura's going to freak out. And then I called Laura, and I remember Laura, and it was like a light switch went on. As soon as you heard Zoe's using, it's like you went into this mode and you were like, yeah, okay, she's using. So what's the plan?
When you describe it that way, what comes up for me is that these are not conversations that many people have. It wasn't for us.
It was such a relief for me hearing you talk. Like, I don't know if you're aware of it even, but sometimes you just jump into this, I call it like a therapy mode, and you just kind of take control of the situation. You take a big panicky moment and you have a way of filtering it down and calming things down and looking at it rationally. And that's what you did that night. And oh my God, it was such a relief. And I'm talking about me. It was such a relief just for me. Zoe, what was it like for you to hear those words? You're using, we're going to support you through this.
I mean, it was a relief. You go so long with hiding your addiction, right? And then to finally come out in the open, you're not expecting for somebody to just understand, or some would call enable the addict by saying, okay, let's go get this and you can use and we're going to make a plan. That's never the plan. You don't see somebody saying stuff like that. You tell somebody that you need to use, and their automatic thought was, okay, so how are we going to stop you from using this time? What are we going to do to prevent you from using? It was shocking, but it was also such a relief.
I was shocked too. I remember saying, really, Laura? That's the plan?
Yeah, it was shocking. Definitely shocking. I mean, like
So,
I said.
can we talk about why we did that. What was the
Yeah, I want to know
purpose?
too. Why?
Yeah,
What was
why?
different?
Well, let's suppose you shared, okay, I'm using. And let's suppose the response was, well, how can we help you stop? How would that have felt?
Like every other time, like every
And
other situation.
you would have immediately went to plan B.
Yeah. How am I going to get out of here? Who do I need to call right now to come and pick me up so that I can get the fuck out of here?
Mm-hmm.
Now, devil's advocate for a second. What if me and Laura did say that? All right, so you gotta go to detox. This is it. This is your chance. This is where you make a change in your life, and we give you that speech.
That's the same
What?
speech that I've heard so many times though, and it did nothing because I just ran from what I didn't want to hear or do.
So what was
I
your
took off.
what was your plan B this time?
Fuck, I don't know because like obviously I was in a different situation if I came clean to the people who could have kind of kicked me out and I wouldn't have a home, I wouldn't have anywhere to go at that point. So obviously I was thinking something different. I wanted different more so than I probably ever did.
You think you would have tried going into detox?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Survival mode, like we were talking about survival mode, like you said. Survival mode is who do I need to call to come pick me up? And what are my next steps to get a couple bucks to buy a point of fentanyl? Like, what are my next steps from here? Because where I am right now, that's not happening. You know, it's not going in that direction. This direction is going to, you can't use Zoe. You have to go to detox. These are the ultimatums, right? And then, like I said, on the other hand of things, I must have been in a different zone because I came clean about it. So I must have wanted change really bad at that point. So I probably would have tried to clean up my shit, I guess.
All I was thinking is you're standing in front of me, and I just didn't want you to leave because you'd be safe.
And I am. I'm here and I'm sober. So
Yeah. That's why I did it. Just wanted you to be safe.
We might say that Zoe wanted to be safe too. When I think back to some of our earlier episodes where, Zoe, you talk about using was to not get sick. And there was a lot of fear around what withdrawal symptoms felt like and what your body would go through. I can only imagine. And these are really hard moments, right? Everybody's sort of elevated, activated, scared, nervous, probably responding very emotionally.
One of the reasons Zoe's safety was so paramount to me was she was dressed, she looked good, she looked like she was ready to conquer something. I remember you being dressed as if you're about to go out, and I didn't want you to go out, right? Of course, when I heard, because I thought if you go out and it's just one more time that you use and you would have to use, that might be the time. That might be the bad batch.
yeah.
And so that's why I jumped on board. Laura jumped on board because she knew that the best chance for success was doing this. You know what? I've always wanted to ask you this though, Zoe. Did we almost kill you by giving you fentanyl like that? What I mean by that is on one of the previous episodes when I'm describing the time where you wouldn't wake up right away.
Oh,
And Lara says, yeah, that sounds a lot like fentanyl poisoning.
yeah.
We were on a pretty structured regiment. You were dosing only for withdrawals, but does that eventually lead to fentanyl poisoning? Could that have been the cause of your death if we kept doing that?
I don't know. I honestly I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I asked that question because I imagine there's other people out there right now, and they may be going through that same decision process. Do I
Yeah.
force my loved one to go into detox? Or,
And risk driving them away.
yeah, or what's the or there?
I mean, in our case, we did the taper plan.
How dangerous was that?
at the end of the day, it was no more dangerous than having me out there on my own doing it and doing whatever I wanted or however much I wanted.
That's how I see the harm reduction model. It meant that somebody was looking at you. It meant that somebody was standing by with a Narcan kit. It meant that somebody was making sure that you were hydrating. Daniel was checking in on you and making sure that you were okay, including having to wake you up sometimes and then wonder, okay, what's going on here, right? Are you too sedated? Are you okay? Are you going into withdrawals?
For me, all of this points to, do you want to go through this process in the apartment of someone that doesn't know anything about fentanyl, or do you want to have a detox center that is medically supported for people going through this, right? To me, that's what it is. Like, we need more medically supported detox. So
And that are
people,
free.
thinking about those people that say, why should we invest our public money into harm reduction? Isn't it just giving drugs away for free?
To those people, I would say there's a lot of good benefits to injecting well. When people inject well and they use well, for example, it reduces their hospital presentations, it
Yeah.
reduces infection. And so, if that's your concern, it's like, yeah, when people use well, it also means that they're not ending up needing medical attention because they've developed infections and things like that.
In the long run, it's people saving money because it prevents the problem from getting extreme and bigger.
I would add to that, when someone goes through that harm reduction model, they're getting help, they're asking help. It might not be, like you said, Laura, relapse is part of it. So it might not be the end, but
Yeah.
it is one step closer.
Yeah, because harm reduction, it starts where a person is at. So if we are supporting somebody who's using, we're going to support them with using safely. What that
Mhm.
means is don't use alone, have a timer, have an app. Let's make sure you don't, you don't overdose and you're alone. Let's
Mhm.
take care of safety in that way.
When I look back and think about, what we did, it the whole thing was harm reduction.
Yeah, we were taking a bad situation and making the best out of it, making the safest possible way to do it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, but they've tried many other ways, right? The conclusion is harm reduction saves lives. Is that right?
Yeah. When we meet people where they're at, it's about, understanding where they're at in that cycle of change, understanding what's important to them, understanding, their capacity to make good choices given what's going on in their life. There's so much complexity here. And so I think harm reduction works because it invites all of that. It creates a starting place that says, no matter what's happening, we're going to work with it and we're going to support you the best that we can. It doesn't mean that, you're condoning. It doesn't mean that you're condoning use. It doesn't mean that you have to like opioids, you have to like fentanyl, you have to like illicit drug use. It doesn't mean that you condone any of it. You can have strong opinions about it. You can not
Mhm.
like it. And you can also say, okay, I can put that aside because it's actually not about that. It's
Right.
about creating safe space. It's about helping somebody and supporting somebody so they can then connect with what's a next best step for them.
How popular is harm reduction?
I work at a harm reduction site and I work in child and youth services and we support harm reduction. So what does that mean? It means that we start working with people wherever they're at.
I like that. You say that a lot. Wherever they're at. That's a really powerful statement. We could directly relate that to the stages of change, can't we?
Yeah,
Mhm.
because everybody is at their own spot. You know what I'm saying? Not every person is the same. Not every situation is the same. Not every addiction is the same. So, in order to make the addict feel comfortable, you need to start where they are, start where they're at, which is why I think Laura uses that term so much because it's so important.
Yeah, I think what gets in the way for a lot of people, and particularly if you think about parents, right? I think parents really struggle with what does this say about me then? So if we start off with some ideas about what it means to be a good parent or a good partner or a good spouse or a good boyfriend, girlfriend, if we have, ideas about what it means to be good in these roles, then sometimes harm reduction invites this, holy shit, what does this say about me then if I'm going to let my kid use? Does this say something
Yeah.
about me negative?
Oh, I felt that way big time. Like
Yeah.
we spoke about that in one of the earlier podcasts where I was actually on the NA meeting and I felt I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't
Yeah,
want to bring
because
it up.
on this topic, I mean, a lot of people get confused and mixed up about enabling and then harm reduction. If you're helping them use, whether you're helping them use safely or not, whatever the case is, you're still helping them use in a sense. So that's technically enabling the addict. There's so much to it, right? Like so many different outlooks on that.
Let's recap. The goal of harm reduction is to save lives. There is no one way. And this is why meeting a person where they are at often helps. In our case, it meant accepting Zoe's reality. It meant we had to listen, we had to accept, and we had to ask ourselves, in what ways would we be able to help? It gave Zoe an opportunity to be open and honest, and it gave her family an opportunity to support her differently. When judgment was taken away, Zoe didn't feel the need to run or to bolt. Now, every family situation will have unique factors. Harm reduction can be what invites a safe conversation. It may be a conversation about risk, or about tolerance, or need, or even goals. We can practice harm reduction and still have limits and boundaries that keep everyone safe. Till next time.